Okay, so for today, I'm going to be working questions 17 through 20. So yes, we will have to flip the page. So let's see. Let's take a look at number 17. We're going to start applying functions. I'm going to give you guys equations, and we're actually going to use this like a little realistic event. So we're going to apply quadratic functions. It says a dot missile is fired straight into the air from a military installation. Okay, so a missile was thrown up. The missile's height in feet is given by the formula h of t is equal to negative 16 times the quantity t minus 3 all squared plus 560, where time is measured in seconds. So now here, remember how before, like last week, we talked about f of x? And look, now I'm calling it h of t. That's basically just a function. Instead of a y, I'm saying h of t. I use the letter h for height and t because it's related to time in seconds. Now, start getting used to this negative 16. This negative 16 is not just a random number. It happens to be the gravity pull. It's a negative number because gravity tends to pull us down. So that negative 16, it might be by coincidence that we see it a lot. Not quite a coincidence, it's actually our gravity pull. So we have it there. How high in feet is the missile after 7 seconds? So remember, this formula is going to give us the height. H of t is height. We don't know the height right now, right? We don't know this value. We don't know what the height is. That is what we're solving. Now in mathematics, when we don't know the value of something, we replace it with a letter. I don't know the height, so I'm going to replace it with a letter. How about the letter X? Equals. And then on the rest of my equation here, one interesting thing that I know is that I know the time, 7 seconds. So I'm going to rewrite all of that, but instead of t, I'm going to write 7. So I have negative 16 times the quantity 7 minus 3 squared plus 560. Basically, just work this out. Just solve this. Okay. I remembered order operations. Remember PEMDAS, GEMS, however you guys learned it. First thing I gotta do is my groups or my parentheses, however you guys called it. So I have to work this 7 minus 3. So I'm gonna say this is equal to negative 16 times 4 squared plus 560. Right? 7 minus 3 gave me 4. I work my parentheses. Then I have to work my exponents. I know 4 squared is 16, so I'm going to write this. This is equal to negative 16 times 16 plus 560. I see a multiplication and an addition. I have to multiply first. I'm just going to multiply this out. Negative 16 times negative 16 times positive 16. So I'm going to say this is equal to negative 256 plus 560. And I'm going to say this is equal to negative 256 plus 560 is 304. Now, just as a little recap, what does that 304 really mean? I remember the story, they threw a missile and we could calculate it by negative 16 times t minus 3 all squared plus 560. The t was 7 seconds, so we just put it in there. So it says that after 7 seconds, the height of this thing is 304 feet. Wow, that's pretty tall. It's a missile. Yeah, makes sense that in 7 seconds we'll go that high. Good. Let's take a look at question number 18. Another missile's fired straight into the air from a military installation. Now this missile's height in feet is given by the formula h of t is equal to negative 16 t minus 8 all squared plus 1,250, where time is measured in seconds. So this is a different formula. At what time in seconds will the missile reach its maximum height? So we gotta calculate. One thing we saw, one very interesting thing, we know this is, I'm gonna call this the vertex form. Something we saw previous unit. Very interesting though. I remember the vertex. I will get it from my values here. Let me just bring out the vertex. We saw this before, right? You guys remember this. You guys should remember this. My vertex here is positive 8 and then 1250. I got this positive 8 from right here. Remember, I have to switch the sign. I know it says minus 8 there, but remember, I gotta switch the sign on the x. And then my y value, I got it from here. For the y value, we do not switch the sign. That was the vertex. I know it's open down, right? Because my aperture is negative. So I know my graph looks something like this. And my vertex is right there. Notice how here it says, at what time in seconds will the missile reach its maximum height? Isn't that the vertex? That's pretty much it, right? That's the vertex. Now, interesting on the vertex, the first number, that tells me the time. The second number, that tells me the height of the vertex. So my question here, at what time in seconds will the missile reach its maximum height? At 8. Other question that I see here, what will be the maximum height in feet? 1,250. Now I know some of you guys are familiar with putting a comma on your thousands. For your homework, it is okay if you do put the comma or you do not put the comma. It's fine. It will recognize either way. Remember the vertex. The vertex tells me, in this case, the maximum point. And the maximum point, basically the two values is time and height. That's it. That's all you guys needed to do on this one. That was pretty simple. Let's take a look at question number 19. Let me flip the page. There's another missile. It's fired straight into the air from a military installation. The missile's height in feet is given by the formula h of t is equal to negative 16 t minus 7 all squared plus 1,520, where time is measured in seconds. At what time in seconds will the missile reach 1,264 feet? Okay, we don't know the time right now, right? So on my function here, on my equation here, what does this 1,264 mean? That's height. Okay, so I'm gonna replace it there. So the way I'm gonna work this, I'm gonna rewrite this. 1,264 is equal to negative 16 t minus 7 squared plus 1,520. You're like, whoa, Mr. Leonzo, these numbers are kind of big. Yeah, missiles tend to go kind of fast. Okay, I just remembered how to solve for a letter. Remember, all I gotta do is separate my sides to the equal sign. This plus 1,520, I'm gonna move it to the other side as a minus 1,520. I know 1,264 minus 1,520 happens to be negative 256. Right? Use a calculator if you need to. So negative 256 is equal to negative 16 times t minus 2 all square. Now, let me divide. Don't be afraid of the negative signs there. Let me divide both sides by a negative 16. So I'm trying to get rid of that. On the left side, I know negative divided by negative is positive. 256 divided by 16 happens to be 16. Is equal to t minus 2 all square. Oh, here I remember when I have a parenthesis squared, I can do the square root on both sides. Now the square root of 16, square root of 16, that's positive or negative 4. And here on this side, I'm going to have t minus 2. Now this minus 2, this negative 2, I'm going to move it to this other side as a positive 2. So I see where I'm going to get my answer here. Oh, that's a 7. Okay, my bad. T minus 7. Oops, sorry. Okay, I guess we got to write legible, right? We got to make sure we can read our work. Okay, I know my answers. Both of my answers are going to be 7 minus 4 and 7 plus 4. That's how I'm going to get my answer. So I know 7 minus 4 is 3. 7 plus 4 is 11. So 3 and 11. Can a missile reach a certain height twice? Well, let's think of this logically. Let's say here's a cannon. Here's where the missile goes out. And it hits the vertex, and it comes down. And what if I ask you for certain height? Yeah, I see it twice. So yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense that I might get 2 answers. Good. Let's take a look at this right here. So the missile, it's fired straight into the air from a military station. The missile's height in feet is given by the formula. We have a new formula now where time is measured in seconds. At what time in seconds will the missile reach 330 feet? Okay. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to say, I remember that 330 feet, that's the height. So that's what I'm going to replace it for. So let me rewrite this as 330 is equal to negative 16 times the quantity t minus 4 squared plus 730. Let me separate my sides through the equal sign. This plus 730, let me bring him as a minus 730. So that gives me negative 400. Don't worry about the negatives, it's fine. Negative 400 is negative 16 times the quantity t minus 4 all square. Let me divide both sides by negative 16. And I'll get rid of that. I know negative divided by negative is positive. 400 divided by 16 is 25. So 25 is equal to t minus 4 all squared. And I remember that here's when I do my square root to get rid of the exponent. The square root of 25, that's plus or minus 5. And here I'm going to have t minus 4. This minus 4, this negative 4, I'm going to move it to the other side as a positive 4. And I see here my possible answers. One of my answer is 4 minus 5. And my other answer is 4 plus 5. I know 4 minus 5 is negative 1, and 4 plus 5 is 9. Wait a minute. Time. Can I have a time as a negative 1? Does that even make sense? Mathematically here, why did we get a negative? Right? Negative 1 means I shoot the missile and it's going to land a second before I shot it. Makes no sense, right? I cannot go back in time. But why is that? Well, let's look at this mathematically. Let's say here's the missile. Here's the cannon. Now, our cannon happens to be elevated. Let's say here's a mountain. So I know my missile's going to go here and boom, land right there. But mathematics keeps on extending this and sees it. My points are those 2 points. One of them is positive 9. So it's going to be up here. And the other one I see as a negative 1. Yeah, because it thinks that we shot it before. The negative 1 mathematically makes sense, but in real life, it does not. So negative 1, we're not going to count it. So my answer in this case is just positive 9. When it comes to time, we cannot get a negative number.